it somewhere.
Yeah.
It says signature.
It says elected official.
Then I'll delete it.
Are crazy, are they?
All right, we're gonna call the meeting to order. How's that? So,
Video on.
Huh?
Video on.
that's what it says.
Okay, sorry.
Tried. We sent the agenda. Thank you all for coming. Carrie. I'm not gonna be here, but she's here, so thank you.
Yes, change my stuff.
First thing we need is approval of the agenda.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
All right, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Second matter is election of officers. Since this is our first meeting for 2024, we have to re-elect our officers, and we're all together again, so that's good. I think that's good.
I nominate John Shear as president.
You guys are so gracious.
Is that a motion and a second, or?
Sounds like it.
I think Sherry made it and John's,
All
Bill
in
said
favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
I guess I'll accept that. Vice President, last year was you, Bill, right?
Mhm.
We need a nomination for Vice President.
So moved
Is that for Bill?
for Bill.
I second that.
All right, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Secretary is Carol.
I nominate Carol.
I'll second that.
Secretary.
All right, all in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no for anything, so let's move on. Thank you all.
Thank you,
Thank you for
Carol.
the confidence
Thanks, Carol.
that you bestowed on us.
Thank you. That's the worst job. Thank you.
I didn't get a chance to dodge that bullet.
I don't know if any of us did,
I
Carol.
don't think so.
Carol sent out the minutes, and there was two sendings of them. So the last one she sent would be the ones that we're going to be approving. So we need a motion. If everybody's read it, I'm sure they have, approved the minutes from our last meeting.
I'll make that
Received it
motion.
twice.
I'll second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, no. Thank you all. The TIF balances. You don't have to write them down, Carol. I'll just give them to you. Courthouse TIF allocation one is $339,464.10. Wapaka stands at $986,654.81, and we have to know that's all going to go for bond payments as time goes on. Web Wheel is $328,236.34.
Oh,
Riverview West is $4,035.74. And I went ahead and had them remove Tell City 1 and 2 because they've always been zero and they don't exist any longer.
that's a good idea.
My understanding is we will still get tax revenue into these in this year from last year. And then they'll cease to collect any more revenue, if I remember right. So
Sounds right.
that's really what we have to work with right now, from depending on what we decide over the next 12 months on activities that we're wanting to do as a redevelopment commission if they cost any money. So we're going to be conscious at this point. That's the dollars that we have. So
About 600.
Huh?
About 600.
Yeah.
Getting rid of Wapaka's.
Yeah, what Wapaka does is that money flows in and flows out when the bonds come available. They pay them. Wapaka, as you remember from the last meetings, had to pay $136,000 deficit on revenue received to what the revenue or what the cost was. So that was pretty much going to be a wash until it's completed in 5 years, 4 years, somewhere in there, whenever it completes. So there will not be, if there is anything left over, it's going to be minimal, very minimal on that one. Forest Canton. Tomorrow, I am meeting with a gentleman to sell. We talked today. He's bringing a check, and I've got information for him for tomorrow on lot 10. So lot 10 is basically going to be sold by tomorrow. And lot 10 is the one right off the first one at the top. Did everyone get a chance to read the documents that Andrew prepared on the purchase and sale agreements, as well as the special warranty deeds?
Mhm.
Is there any questions on that?
I just want some clarification.
I don't know if I can answer, but
So I just want to make sure I processed it all correctly, but long story short, this allows us to deed the property, but in the event the buyer defaults, we are then pushing back on the, essentially, the mortgage holder
Correct.
to liquidate as fast as possible, at which time whoever purchases is then obligated by our terms.
Correct.
Okay.
That's my understanding.
That was my
also.
walk away. I just wanted to make sure I
But it will
understood it.
actually be deeded.
Yes.
They will have a deed. They will have, it's a special warranty deed. It's a deed with with those restrictions. Really what it is.
Okay.
So it allows the institution that they can say, yes, we actually have the deed, but we have to follow through with the rules and regulations. And that's what it says.
Okay.
So we still have some control, but they have a deed. That's my understanding. And Andrew may be able to answer that better.
Who's first?
Huh?
Who's first?
I cannot answer that, Randy. I'll have to ask Andrew that question.
Have we reached?
My understanding was the mortgage holder is first.
So you, in effect, could potentially not be paid.
Well, we get paid.
We get paid up.
We get paid
Right off
before
the bat.
When they sign this, we have our money.
Okay, so you're not obligated to put that into the mortgage.
I guess technically-
No, we get paid.
No,
So
that's right.
when they do this deed, we have our money. So the only thing we're using this for is leverage to make sure that they comply with our rules.
Your rules.
That's the
Yes.
only thing it has to do with is our rules.
The goal is getting the home constructed in a timely fashion.
That's correct.
So
Yeah.
have we?
Has nothing to do with money for us.
Yeah, that's true.
We
We
get
don't
paid.
have a position.
Have we reached out to the property buyers?
Not yet.
Will we do that?
Yes, we will. I think what we'll do is we'll probably do this by letter,
A lot more.
unless somebody wants to visit them. And it's not going to be somebody, John, I can tell you that. If somebody wants to visit them, that's perfectly fine with me. But that way we can, I was going to have Andrew send us a kind of a cover letter, create a cover letter for us explaining this in real terms, and then get this to them. So we can get a process back with these documents. And we still have one that's not fully paid for, but I wanted to go through this first.
Absolutely.
This is what he was wanting.
Yes.
I want to go through this first to see if this works, and if it doesn't work, then we'll go to Plan B, if you will. But I wanted to get this to you as soon as I got it, which is what I did, so you all can read through it and understand it as well as we can understand it. But when I go on talking to Andrew, he just believes this is probably the best way to cover us and to help them at the same time. And as well as the new part, there's a purchase agreement also, which is quite lengthy as you read it.
Yeah,
And it goes through pretty
Yeah.
much what you have to do,
okay.
like a purchase agreement.
So I just want to make sure they do have a deed.
They will have a deed at that point.
Okay.
If we approve these documents for usage, then we will use these documents as we go forward.
And I did read them, but there's so much
Yeah.
legal terminology in there.
There's
I
just
just
a lot
wanted to
of
make
words.
sure I was reading
Yeah.
things correctly.
So if everybody's comfortable, I think we need to approve these documents as a group so that we can use these documents going forward.
I was surprised at how lengthy this purchase agreement was. I was
Have you
surprised
ever
how
read a
lengthy
short
the
purchase
purchase
agreement?
agreement was. I guess not.
Putting a lot of words in the covenants
Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
in the agreement.
And even our buyer tomorrow, he has copies of this. I sent this to him for his review and his legal team review, and they did not have a problem with any of it, so.
Okay.
Where are we with, I'm sorry, you probably
No,
want to
keep going.
do a motion with that first.
Yeah, let's get this done
Yes,
first.
I
So is
wanna do that
everybody
first.
okay
I'm
with
sorry.
this?
One other quick question. Has this been filtered past any potential local financial institutions?
I have not.
Do we want to do that first to make sure that they will accept that? I just want our purchasers to be able to get a loan.
I haven't floated it by them, but I'm just gonna assume that they will accept it. I don't know.
I would assume they would. I guess I was just kind of curious
No,
about
I
their
have not.
feedback, or if perhaps Andrew had.
I mean, so far, everybody's been paying for the lots up front, so it's
Yeah.
not been an issue.
Yeah, it's just a deed on the lot,
Okay.
agreement on the lot.
Yeah.
As long as you build your home, According to
I
covenants,
just want
it's
to
not
make
an
sure
issue.
that
Yeah,
the bank.
that's true.
It's not an issue.
You know, if the banks have an issue, then I guess we can address those.
Could
That's
it-
kind of-
Okay,
contingent
so we'll
upon the
address it
banks
if the banks have.
I wasn't, honestly, Carol, I wasn't gonna spend the time to go to the banks and ask them.
Yeah, and I understand. I didn't know if Andrew had but I mean, he is the attorney,
Yes,
so.
yes.
you know.
And so I asked him to make sure
Good.
from his dealing with real property and stuff, that's
Yeah.
kind of where this came from. So I'm going to take the assumption that he's done what he thinks is the right thing to do for us,
Okay,
to protect
all right.
us. That's all I can do.
Yeah, they wanted a title and deed to the property, and this gives it.
But it still gives us some protection.
Okay.
So if you're ready, if you want to do that, we'll need a motion and we'll go through that process.
I'll make that motion.
We have a motion by Carol,
I'll second it.
second by David. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
We will use these documents then moving forward. And then we'll reach back out to the current purchasers and see if they want to supplement with the documents they already signed.
Okay, then I'd like to make a motion that if the banks don't accept a loan based on these, that we will revisit before we
On a
pull things.
one-on-one basis. Is that fair?
Before we pull things from people.
On a one-on, we can do that on a one-on-one, I think. We'd have that power to do so.
Okay, I just don't want someone to not be able to get a loan with those, and then we say, oh, we're gonna take it back.
Right, I would agree with that.
So that's what she's got, Sherry's got that motion on the floor. Do we want to second to that?
I'll second it.
You have a second? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
All right. So I did talk to Jago, and here's kind of where they're gonna proceed. And if you've gone to their webpage, they actually have these lots now listed on their webpage for sale. And they actually have kind of put together a house that they know that'll fit on it. So what their thought process right now is they did not really want to go in and buy lots outright, but they want to be able to put our lots on their website and help us market these lots.
So they're not going to buy, they're trying to encourage other
Yes,
people who want to build to buy.
that's correct. So it gives
Okay.
us a builder. If somebody comes to us and says, hey, we have a lot, we can say, here are our builders. And we can direct
Gotcha.
if they ask that question.
Okay,
And, you know, I think for starters, I think that's relatively fair. That's further to where we were.
oh, yeah.
And I did go onto the website today and they have them actually listed. I thought I had one here. Picture. They were fine with these agreements also.
Okay.
So their attorneys went through them. So we've seen several people that actually look through these things, which I think is encouraging. So here's their. I think Tony saw that. So they now have us listed for sale. It's on their webpage. So here's a thought that I had as I was talking to them on the phone. Would we want to put up some signage for all of our developers at this point? Just to kind of give them a plug that, hey, they're out here building homes. And if you want to buy a house or build a home, here's some people you can call.
I think we should, because I think some people don't want to buy a lot because they don't think they can find a
I
building.
mean, because I went through, so our buyers so far would be, I guess, really would be Matt Finley, Indiana Realty, and Jeremy Ramsey.
Mhm.
And Arnold.
And we could talk to them, see how they'd want that
And
picture.
Arnold.
And, yeah, Arnold,
Masonry.
Arnold's, Phil Fort Wendell, and Jago are the ones that are all in compliance right now at this point. And just, if we can just create something that has all of these folks on it, say, hey, these lots are available through these organizations. Maybe we need to kind of think a little bit deeper on how that would look. It's not gonna hurt us anything. It's gonna cost us the price of a sign,
Yeah.
right?
Somehow making them know that there is a builder available who
Yeah.
will build a lot if you would like a lot.
That's correct.
Or
That's
who will build
exactly-
a house. if
That's
you would like
exactly
one.
where I'm going.
Yes.
And then maybe it gets to the point where, Philip gets a call or Greg Arnold gets a call or somebody gets a call, says, hey, I want to build out there. Would you build
Can you
my house?
Yes.
But at least now the public is going to know. And I think I would ask them for sure what they wanted on it, if they wanted a logo.
Or if they even want
Yeah.
one.
But, I mean, I just think we got good
No, we should
signage.
do it.
We got
We
good
should do
signage
it.
availability out there.
Let's do it.
Why would, Bill, you and I want to work on that?
I can do that,
Perfect.
or we can do that.
The other thing
You
I
wanna go
had,
back with, for me to talk?
Yeah.
To-
yeah, we'll talk to all these folks and say, hey, this is what we're thinking. Give us some ideas. We're going to need some logos if you want to do this. It's not going to cost you anything to do it. We'll cover that cost, I think. I think we'll cover that cost. But we were just trying to encourage more people to look at this and try to encourage more people to build here.
You know, something that you might pitch to them, like if we could do a QR code and link it to a website that would then in turn link people to their individual websites if they have them.
So we'll talk to you about that, Karen.
Okay. I don't know how to do it, but okay.
So we can figure this out, right?
We'll figure it out. We got this.
But I think the more information and the more we get out there, I think the
Yeah.
better we are.
Mhm.
Because our objective is still to get homes built. That's our objective.
Yes.
And we got to do everything we can within our ability to hit that objective,
Yes.
as I see it.
Let's facilitate that.
So as you knew from the previous meeting, and we had approved for them to do this, but they did come out and do it's called a dynamic core or some sort of a test on the property. That has been completed. We thought it was going to be $1,200. It ended up being $525. $26, I'm sorry. From Pioneer Engineer, or Patriot Engineering, and that's been completed. Basically, what it told us is that Letterings did a great job on packing the soil. That's what it told us. And it satisfied Jago Homes because they wanted to make sure that they didn't see any potential liabilities. So it's all been satisfied. So since we had kind of approved it in the past, I'm going to go ahead and have that bill paid. I mean, we did the approval at the November meeting, if I remember right. And then, I guess I'm going to ask this question: does anybody want to take on just have that sole responsibility of the marketing of these lots? And that's kind of their outside gig.
I'll help in any way possible, John.
Will you
I'm
field
not a marketing guy.
will you field the phone calls and answer the questions?
I will.
Okay. I mean, that would help me out because I'm getting them now, and
I will.
I figured if we could do that, then it allows us to kind of think.
You're just talking
and
about fielding phone calls.
Fielding phone calls, and
I'll help
like
with that.
tomorrow, I've got to meet with the gentleman, and we'll do the closing, and if Bill would do that, that'd be great. He gets, I think everybody on our group gets the
Okay,
gig.
things like this, I'll need, I've read through this.
Yeah.
I've got them on my computer at home, but I'll need to print them out, keep them.
But just somebody that's kind of be kind of their core. That's kind of what we want. That's going to be your gig, if you will, your thing.
I will.
Okay. And since we're going to work on signage together, that'll kind of work right through that. Thank you, Bill. And then on lot 9, we've talked about that for 2 months. Do you think we should just mail, or do we try to reach out phone wise? Tony, you've talked to him last. What do you think?
I will print a set of these unless you have an extra set already done. I will call him and go meet with him tomorrow.
Okay. And here's where I would be with him. If he's not okay with it, just tell him we have to move on. I mean, either we have to pay or we have to move on.
But remember, we said if the bank won't
I understand
approve a
that.
loan, we're gonna
Yeah,
talk
well,
about that then.
Correct. We can do a one-off discussion.
Okay,
Has the lot owner been aware of those documents?
No,
No, he's been waiting for these documents.
no, he is not.
Clarification.
And that's why we kind of left it lay until we had these
I'll call him
documents back.
tomorrow and meet with him.
I didn't get these documents until I sent them to you all here in early January.
Maybe that might change.
Yeah.
It'd be fine.
So
This is
Kind
what.
of what the holdup was?
Yes.
Yes.
Apparently. Okay, so we're down to number 7 now on our. Andrew sent me his annual invoice for work for the Redevelopment Commission. And his total is $1,498.50 for 2023 for the work that he did specifically for us. So I'll need an approval, and I'm assuming we'll take that out of the courthouse TIF to pay Andrew his fee for 2023.
I'll make the motion to pay that.
I'll second.
A second.
Carol seconded.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And then the following thing, we've talked about this, and I don't know where you want to go. I kind of threw out that plan of trying to get a group together to discuss. Do we want to go down that road? Do we want to drop it? What do we want to do?
Well, my communications is with elected officials is they want to be part of this.
Well, they have to be part of it.
I understand, but we had initially in our talked about one from the council and one from the commissioners. Maybe we ought to meet with those elected officials and see what their priorities are and then bring in the other ones. That way we're not overwhelmed.
So could we do it this way where we'll just say it's the commissioner and the council where they have that conversation, then they bring those ideas to a discussion meeting like this,
I think that's a good idea.
where they can.
Let
they
them
can
put it on their
come by first.
agendas and let them have that group discussion. And then someone from both groups comes to us and tells us, and we're appointed.
Yeah.
Tells us
We're
where
appointed
they,
by them.
I know.
So
Correct.
they should tell us what
That's-
our role
that's
is,
correct.
not
That's where we're
outside
going.
people.
And our role could
That's
basically
where we're
be a
going.
mediator.
they're the elected officials, let them group, and then let them come to
Let them
us and
tell
say,
us.
this is where we want you guys to go this year. Dave, you're elected, is that fair?
I assume. I
So
have
you want this to
It's not
drive.
what we want, it's what they
No.
want. But our ideas will help them
I
too.
just think we have to get some communication and some, I don't know, control's not the right word, but some organization around where.
I know I reached out to the council when you first talked about this through an email, and I received 2 responses probably.
I got one.
One in writing
I
and
got
then
one
one
in
by
writing.
phone call.
I got
The one in
one.
writing is very, very
I got
thorough.
one in writing.
I'm here for that
Commissioners,
portion just to talk when
Okay.
it's appropriate.
I think we need to know what the council and commissioners expect us to do. They're the ones who appoint us. Without them, we wouldn't exist.
Do you have
So
some
they need
ideas,
to
Ray?
tell us what
Oh,
we
yeah.
need.
And you,
That's why I came here.
okay,
I'll come up here so you can hear me and see me.
this is coming from the commissioner side.
I didn't ask them. This is just me, so take it for what it's worth. I look at what you did out at Forest Camp. To me, that's a development for the person who wants all the amenities, roads, curbs, the whole thing. Some of you probably remember, maybe all of you do, Hermie Agent.
Mhm.
And he used to he'd buy an acreage, he'd put a road in. He didn't develop it, like Forest Canton, but he had bigger lots. So if you in turn wanted a garden, whatever you wanted, you had ground with it.
And you needed a septic.
You need a septic. You're out in the county. You're on this ridge looking at the river or through a valley, you're doing something. A lot of people like to have something like that. One thing we're doing with the water right now, if we put water in past your farm, we're not gonna have any lots for sale because you're raising cattle there. Now to serve the rest of the people down the road, yes, it's beneficial. But what I'm thinking is if we can find a parcel of ground, push the water into it, and then you guys can take a more active role in this whole process and have lots, Forest Canton developed, whatever we call this other thing that's bigger, less developed. So there's options there for those that desire more rural versus those that desire a more local city type environment.
So you're thinking housing
So
really
you're
is
Housing
the
again.
area we
So
need
you're
to
thinking our
focus on.
focus, you want us on housing.
Housing. Then the next thing I'd like you to consider is anything related to blight. If I have to drive past and or locate my home next to one that's, looks like it's close to the next windstorm going down, I'm not gonna buy the lot. I'm scared for my family. I'm scared for the value of my property if I make the investment. So I walk away from that. Those houses, those lots generally have all their utilities there. They just need something, tear them down, put them in a condition where they can be remarketed. That can be countywide. It can be any city, it could be anywhere. But it would actually leave the appearance of our community in a better state than what it is without any action. Now, how many is there, how many you can buy affordably, how you might set that up is all something you'd have to work out to see what we could do. But somewhere where we could clean up some of those other issues and then have lots available for people. Those would be my areas. I mean, there's all kinds of other things you can do, but we got to grow. That means people have to get here.
Well, and part of the thought process around it, we have to figure out also how to leverage dollars.
Exactly.
And
You're going to have to work through that process.
Yeah.
X number of dollars I could put in this lot by the time I tear it down.
Here's where it came from, Randy, when I sit on the port board. And, we're trying to we're considering still looking at the road. And then I'm listening to WAPAC and they have their stuff that they're wanting to do. And then we have this, and some of these are going to be they got to deal out of the same pocketbook, right? In order to do this. The question I keep asking is which one is the most important? Now, if you sit on the port board, the port stuff is the most important. If you sit on this board, this is the most important. But really, from a county standpoint, which one is the most important? Because if we don't, in this scenario, if we don't have WAPACA, the port doesn't really have much to do. Because a lot of our stuff is generated for WAPACA, and there's others, but they're the biggest one. So if they're not, what do we do? So if we have to channel dollars, where do we want to channel them to? If we only have so much, where does this channel to get the best impact for the entire county? That's where this thought process came.
So I'm going to take you back then, and I'm going to say, well, we don't necessarily have a project today that we have to do. Okay. When the foundry originally came in here, we had no money, no anything. And for some reason, we managed to get the funds together, get it done. Similar with out there, the pillow factory, it was another one. The funding wasn't there for that. We didn't have TIF districts. We didn't have too much anything. We managed to do that. So what you don't want to do is find yourself sitting there at the table waiting for the next person to walk in the door. We find 5 years later, we're still waiting. Whenever this happens, if we have leadership here, we'll figure it out. We'll get it funded.
And I agree with that, but we still have to have some sort of an idea.
Right.
Yeah.
This
We
is
don't
where,
want to wait for anything. I will tell you right now,
Right.
what we found out in this commission is by waiting, we would get nothing done.
exactly.
And this commission sat for years and years and years, and they were in the waiting game.
Right.
Okay. And I think, and I will tell everybody on this group, I think we've done an excellent job of taking what we didn't have. We had nothing when we started Forest Camp. And we started with an idea from the hospital that said, hey, we'll basically give you the ground up front to do something. And then it all came together.
And you could have said, well, until we get 10 lots sold, we won't do anything. You didn't.
No,
You stand
nor
up and
did we
said,
say,
"We're good."
we don't know where we're getting our money, but we also knew that we could do this over a period of time if we have to. We were just fortunate enough that things fell into a little bit better place, so we were able to do it less than, 9 months?
I'd encourage that same attitude to move forward because there's no purpose for your board unless you're active with something that you're going to pursue.
I agree.
And I think that in this housing realm, whether it's rehabilitating houses, tearing them down, cleaning them up, whatever, and or providing this, I mean, people look and they go, wow, I'd like to have 2 acres on this ridge up here looking over the Ohio River. If we can find that, I don't know if we can find it, if we can find something suitable and we can incorporate this with moving water in as Antro builds out their system, then we're going to have water in a location for someone to build a home out in the county.
Let me ask you this question, because we do have 91 acres.
I mean, I don't know whether it's suitable, whether it's got a view, I mean, I don't know. I'm not familiar with the ground.
We're talking the property
Next
that this board owns behind.
Right.
Mhm.
I mean, I've not been on that property.
And
to know.
personally, I'd like to look at different kinds of housing also,
Well,
not just the
I
standard
agree.
single-family home.
So in the last month, I've had several calls, and I still use the term patio homes. I don't know what else to call them. But they're in essence designed for, they don't have to be retirees, but retirees are the ones that seem to want to kind of float to them, where they're a little more upscale, all on one floor,
Yes.
no elevators. And there's a
And
property
no outside
manager, if you will,
maintenance.
that takes care of mowing the grass, all
Yeah.
the stuff. And they can move in, but they're not low end. They're gonna be a little upper scale, because that's what these people are used to. They're used to coming out of a home that they own but they don't like the maintenance anymore.
That's what these duplexes on Upper 14th are. I mean, that's the
Yeah.
type of thing you're
So
talking about.
I really think that if that's okay with you, I think that's another part that we need to look
No
at.
problem. I think anything, I wouldn't cut anything out. I just think opportunities to relocate in Perry County.
And what that does, John, what you just said, it takes people who have nice homes that don't want to maintain them anymore because they're
They
at that
can't.
age. They can't. It's too expensive. They can't do it themselves. And it opens their homes up now to a younger family to
Exactly.
purchase.
Exactly.
And
Downsizing.
along with that, I'd like to see some kind of
So downsizing.
even lower end, along with that upper end, some lower end duplexes for young families who don't want an apartment. They want a duplex so they can have a yard for their kids. That's, I don't know, just an idea, but I like the other idea.
It's like going to the car dealership and you can buy something from the smallest to the biggest. What we want to be able to do is offer these people what they want. Because everybody, each one of you on this board has a different idea of what they'd really like to have. One may want big acreage, one may say, I just want this nice little place that's really nice, really small, and really easy to take care of. So there's a whole gamut of opportunities here, and
Mhm.
I would like to see you pursue that. Not to say we're gonna ignore any of the industry needs or whatever, but in the interim, until the industry comes in and tells us, we gotta have you. At that time, then we're gonna get it done, what we're gonna do. But in the meantime, look at how you can do other things to make us more desirable as far as a place to relocate.
So one place we would probably want to look is the property the county owns right now.
Well, that, or we can do county-owned property for one thing, or we can put a feeler out. I made mention to one commissioner, and he said, out in his neighborhood, it was Randy Cleving, there was a gentleman that had his whole farm out in lots. He said at
We
some
actually
time,
have one right now they have contacted us.
Yeah. so I mean, he said that at some time, it's an older gentleman, his intention is to lot it out. So if that becomes something that we would be affordable, or a similar deal like you worked with a hospital or however.
I don't know if
I'd
they want
also
to continue
like-
to be the general contractor.
I'd also like to look.
I don't know if I want to continue to be the general contractor.
Exactly. I'd also like to look in town, because some older people, not only do they want to not have to deal with the maintenance of their home, but they want to be where things are. And what, I'm not looking at buying, I'm looking at asking the city, is there property you'd be willing to
They
give
actually have a
us?
list. They have a list.
If they'd be willing to give it to us is what I'm looking at.
And-
It benefits
and
the city, it benefits the
one piece that
community.
I think right now would make a lot of sense, and I think the city actually owns it, is the one that they keep talking about, the hotel property. I mean, as far as I'm concerned, nothing is happening there. And that's been a neat corridor. We got the apartments,
Mhm.
we got other apartments. That's just the thought that I have.
That
Everything
way-
is there.
You have that in Tell City. I'm gonna tell you that Camden just got their settlement on the Can Clay
There
project.
you go.
Huge area in the middle of town. What they're gonna do with it, how, I mean, but it's suitable for development too, and that's city-owned property up there. Again, you're gonna have to address some of the issues as far as blight coming into that. Because you're not gonna get the houses built that you want in there if you don't address some of those issues.
We have to have cities willing to donate that property.
And
Meaning it's a win-win, not just,
the city
on our end.
has to have the interest
Yeah.
too.
The
right,
city has to be involved. If the city doesn't care, then so be it.
Right.
But it's the same with a private owner. If you've got someone that has a parcel of property, and I don't know where it might be, that would be a nice location for a group of 10 or 12 homes, maybe we can put the word out or reach out to people to see what they might have, that could be used and developed. If we, just like your Forest Canton, it started a little slow, it's not going as fast as you want to, but you're getting houses built. Had you not developed that, those houses would not be there, okay? So we have to keep that in our mind as we do this, because we're a small county. We're not gonna build 150 houses one summer. It's not gonna happen. But if we can offer people the opportunity to find this location with a great view in a safe community, good internet, water, I mean, we can attract people.
Yeah, and the expansion of your water out in the county can open up
Absolutely.
properties for
But
sale.
what we have to do is, like I used Tony as an example, he's gonna continue to run his farm. And I understand that at some time in his family, they may decide to sell it and the water would be an asset. But as we're pushing out, it's just like in that area, some of the people that are underserved, it'll be a plus to them. But we need to get
Right.
into an area where the lots are available, that people actually will sell them. And then people can build homes and move there. So whatever that area is, so we can identify that.
And there are people that would rather live rural than in the city.
Yes.
Absolutely. I mean, there's people that want
different things.
to have a garden in the backyard.
Yeah. Like
You know, they don't want my next door neighbor looking in my window from, just a few feet away. And that's just a different, other people like the convenience, I can get to town quickly,
Yeah.
get everything I need back home.
That's
So I mean,
nice.
everybody has a little different idea of what they
We
like
need to meet
to
Antro.
live at.
So we need to talk to Antro and see where they're at on. Have they started use of any of their
Andrew's doing
LPs?
engineering right
So
now.
they've got to the engineering phase.
We have certain areas that's actually in an enterprise zone that's going to bring more dollars in. They're going to Washington next week, I think, to meet with some of the officials about other funding they can get. So they're doing that. They've got to come in to see what their costs and stuff are. But if we could identify a property and say, we really need this built out, we just have to work through how we do it. I mean, we still have some funding through our ARP.
By addressing all that, it not only might entice people to locate here, but it also may bring in those people who live in Spencer County and Kentucky, bring them back in where we can, get their property taxes and their income taxes.
Yes.
I can tell you that adjoining counties are not having these same thought processes or conversations.
Right.
That's good.
And I mean, and then that's why I say we don't need to sit back and just wait for somebody to walk in the door and present us with a package. It won't happen. We'll find ourselves sitting here 20 years from now.
We've done that for the last 30 years.
Yeah.
So we just need to take some initiatives. They may not sell out immediately, just like the Forest Canton, they will. That Forest Canton will sell out. I don't know when.
It's about growing
Yeah.
assessed valuation.
You've got to get people here.
Gotta have somewhere to go.
Yeah. People have to get here because people solve all our problems.
Growth solves a problem.
We keep saying that
That's
holds back, but we never.
So whatever we can do to
Forward.
move that forward, I mean, it's just as the foundry is, they struggle, ATTC struggle for workers. If we can get them here,
Mhm.
they've got a
Yeah.
job. So we just gotta get them here.
Okay,
All right.
thank you, Randy.
Yeah, we appreciate that, definitely.
So we'll, if everybody want to kind of take the thoughts into consideration in the next meeting. One thing I think we need to get some sort of a plan around the development. I mean, what does this look like? How does it look? The same thing we did with Forest Canton. And we started with a raw idea, then we kept fine tuning it. And I think we need to do the same thing. I do know the city has done, I think they actually still have their book. They created a book of the blight housing or open lots that would be available. That I think they've already compiled that. I think they did that last year.
I mean,
So
you may reach
Yeah.
out to even some of the banks if they've got some that's in foreclosure.
Oh,
If
yeah.
they'd be willing to, part with.
So I'll talk to the city on that. And I actually had a conversation with Philip one day about this patio home idea, because he's kind of done some of that. I think location matters on those, by the way. If you talk to the folks, they love the buildings, but they don't like the location so much. And that's just how people are. So I think we have to consider that.
What are you talking about?
The ones behind Dr. Russ's old house on 13th Street, north side.
What would be more appealing to them, or do you know?
I think not having a trailer park across the street.
Okay.
Is that fair?
Ambiance,
Yeah. And I've heard this from several people.
right.
you know, it seems like I get these conversations just kind of out of the blue now from people. I guess because we did something, I don't know. I mean, I'm proud of what we did. There's no question in my mind. I think we did a lot very, very quickly as a group.
One of the things.
Not saying we always agreed, but we got it done.
One thing we're working on right now in Region 15 is we've got a brownfield grant. And we're trying to clean up that hospital site,
The old hospital.
the old hospital. So depending on how that all comes about, there may be some options going forward in that area. Which brings you in the proximity of all of the activities.
Plus you have site, you have,
Plus
Plus
a
you have your
giant
view.
up there.
and you have, you know, Guy Neal's right next door to it, so it does work together.
That might be something in the future.
We just have to let us know where you are with that. Because I'm assuming the gentleman from Kentucky still owns it.
He does, and I think we'll find out by April. If I remember, because I have already acquired, I don't remember the date in April. but
Okay.
We'll know whether the money comes through.
So they just applied at this point.
It's the second round. We didn't get funded the first round.
Okay.
So,
And there can be multiple rounds with those, so.
we want to get that, if you've been up there,
It's a mess.
It's a mess.
it needs to be addressed.
I don't know how it looks that bad, that quick.
Oh, it don't take long. It does not take long for a building.
An
to-
idle site it will self-implode in no time.
All right, so I would say for our next meeting in February, if everybody wants to kind of think through this, and we'll come back with some plans and some ideas, and we can kind of start walking down that path. Is that fair?
Yep.
What would be the date, Bill?
You want to go the last one or the next to the
Is
last?
everybody okay with the last Wednesday? I'm fine.
That'd be February 28th.
28th of February. Like I said, tomorrow I'll meet with the gentleman and we'll get lot 10 sold. And I think he may be wanting to start here once the weather kind of breaks, the way it
Oh,
sounds.
great.
And then I'll continue to have the conversations, or Bill will, I'll hook Bill up with Jago so he can continue those conversations. And then Bill and I will reach out on some signage for some of our
It'll be
builders.
Friday. I can stop by your office Friday.
Friday afternoon. It's good.
I thought you were transferring or something. I read in the minutes, lot 4 for lot 10.
We were, but they changed.
That's
Yeah.
confusing to me.
Yeah,
So
in the-
we're talking about something totally different.
In the minutes at the last meeting,
I wasn't there.
yeah, they were wanting to, instead of I think it was lot 4, wanted to switch it to lot 10. Well, when I talked to them again, they said, we've got a house that'll fit on this lot, so we want to keep
So
what we
they
have.
kept,
They're gonna keep what they
okay.
have. So
I was-
basically, that whole conversation became null and void.
okay.
And then this gentleman actually called me on, what is today, Wednesday? He called me on Friday of last week. And he wanted to know who he needed to write the check to. It's kind of how the conversation started. And so I sent him these documents because I wanted him to, I said, I'm going to send you documents. I want you to read them. I want to make sure you're okay with them, which he did. And so we're meeting tomorrow at 1 o'clock to finalize it.
Cool.
So here we go. That's all I've got, folks.
I'll make a motion of adjournment then.
I'll second.
God love you. Thank you.
Back to work.
Thanks, sir.